And when I go through this, people say, okay, so you got all these elements. Why don't we have it? And the reality is that we don't have a provincial government that is willing to lead. We don't have a provincial government that has a vision of really transforming the economy in this province. What we do have is a provincial Liberal government that listens very closely to nuclear interests, to oil interests, to gas interests, to property developers, but not to us. Right now, Ontario is going through the process of reviewing its plan to rebuild its electrical system. You're probably all aware of this. Most of our generating capacity is coming to the end of its lifespan. 80% has to be replaced over the next 20 years. And the Liberals have brought forward a plan that they cost out at about $70 billion, with nuclear power right at the core. Right at the core. Last summer, 2 of Canada's leading environmental groups hired economists, they hired energy analysts, they rented economic modeling systems, and they asked 2 questions. And the first question is, how much will this really cost? Because when you go through the Liberals' numbers, rose-colored glasses doesn't quite describe the approach they took to costing. In any event, they went through, our colleagues, our allies went through, and their consultant said the real cost is about $113 billion, which is a fair amount of cash, to give you at the end a nuclear-powered system, a nuclear-cored system. And the second question they asked was, could we build a system that didn't have nuclear, that phased out coal, and that we could afford? And what they found was that, in fact, in Ontario, because of the assets that I mentioned, we could. In fact, we could do that in the same timeline, 20 years, for a cost of power that was less than what the Liberals put forward. So Ontario is facing this decision point. We can reproduce, we can repeat some of the worst mistakes of the 20th century and build a nuclear-centered electricity system. Or we can build a 21st century electricity system with renewables and efficiency at the center. And I don't think it's that difficult a choice. You know, I think we can pick which one works for us. We have an opportunity to build a sustainable energy economy here in Ontario. And we can't afford to let that opportunity pass us by. We can't squander it. Quite literally, the time to make these decisions is very short, and the stakes are very high. We can't afford to go down the road that the Liberals want to go down. I would like you to think for a moment about what a new energy economy would look like here in Guelph. Think about solar hot water panels on the roofs of buildings all over this city. On the roofs of schools, on the roofs of hospitals, on the roofs of homes, on the roofs of daycare centers, all over this city. Now commercially competitive with natural gas-fired hot water. Think of that all over this city. Think about buildings in the city insulated so they used 85% less energy to keep the people inside warm in the winter. Currently being done at a house in Hamilton. Think about thousands of people in southwestern Ontario, in Guelph, putting in that insulation, putting in those solar hot water panels, putting in geothermal heating systems. Think about the reduction in air pollution that would mean fewer children having asthma attacks, fewer seniors with respiratory problems, and fewer people in the emergency department with heart attacks. That's what a new energy economy could look like here in Guelph. One that employed thousands of people, made the air cleaner, made our lives more affordable. We talked to a lot of people in the NDP. I've talked to a lot on this tour. And there are people who, a lot of folks who understand that we need leadership to build that kind of new energy economy. And most people don't use those words. But most people understand that somehow protecting the environment and keeping ourselves fully employed, those things can be tied together, can be pulled together. And people are doing a lot individually in their personal lives to deal with this issue. People change light bulbs out to high efficiency bulbs, they walk more, they buy locally. But the problem has to be addressed at a much higher level. It has to be addressed by governments acting to mobilize. We don't have a technical problem, we have a political problem.